All right, guys. Welcome to a load of live training. Today's gonna be February 17th, 8:05 p.m. Eastern time. If you're in the East Coast, and if you're in California or the West Coast, it should be like 5 o'clock p.m. PST, right? So if you're watching this live, meaning that it is live for you right now, wherever you want, I want you to comment live below. And if you're watching the replay, and we'll see if we can get this on YouTube after, but if you are watching the replay, what I want you to do is comment replay below. First of all, it actually tags you. So that way, when there's questions asked, if you have to step away for a second, you can always quickly go back to that timestamp to make it easier for yourself, right? Now, with that being said, I'm actually based out of Colombia right now. If you guys know, just came from the office, finalizing everything. Things are going crazy. So what I want you to do is actually comment the city and state you're watching this from, right? And I'm going to put this also in the comments. I know there's a little bit of a delay for us, but streaming directly from our office outside of Colombia right now. Obviously, I know we got some international watchers. We got some people like based in the US, Canada, sometimes in Europe also. But the reason I say this is because ultimately, no matter where you are, this is the business that you can take advantage of. And I say this specifically because obviously I worked in-person jobs for basically my entire career. So it was a little different, but nowadays we're in the work from home type of mentality. So what ends up happening is what? You start realizing, hey, you know, if I can get that laptop lifestyle or maybe some passive income building on the side, then you can really accelerate where you're moving to, because you start realizing passive income is going to drive the zip code you're staying in also, right? So I'm seeing New York, seeing Mr. Chris, Victoria. What's going on, guys, right? So for today's training, it's going to be pretty good. We're going to go over a few different things, right? So first of all, I'm actually have a little announcement at the end. So if you want to stay till the end, go over some basics on how to start this business specifically. And then the other thing is also going to be like what you need to do to scale in 2026 and right now, because 2026 is the whole year, guys. Let's be realistic. But you want to take advantage of this business right now, exactly what you need to do to be successful with this business today. Let's be realistic. So we're going to go over all that, right? So with that being said, a few different things on the agenda. Like I mentioned, the 2026 explosion, because if you've been paying attention to crypto, I get like my updates on my Apple Watch, and that's how you know it's live. You see the actual time over there. You start realizing there's a lot of moving parts happening right now, and you really want to take advantage, right? So if you're ready, you're like, hey, let's get to it, man. I got some stuff to do. Maybe you're driving back from work. I want you to comment info below. Comment info so we can get this started, right? Now, with that being said, right? I want to break down something before we even get started, right? So let's talk about speed, right? And when I say speed, I really want you to think about what I'm talking about right now, right? We're talking about speed in decisions, speed in business, and then ultimately speed in pivoting if it's necessary. And I bring this up specifically because it's a big deal and it's really driven the success I had and a lot of entrepreneurs that I know also. So the way you want to think about this is there's two entrepreneurs, right? Entrepreneur number one is what we call the thinker. And that's a lot of people. This is how I was in the beginning also. But what ends up happening is that version of the entrepreneur, they're usually very deliberate. They always need time for decisions. And typically what ends up happening is you're second guessing every single thing that happens. So they second guess themselves, they second guess what others tell them, and you're typically very distrustful. And I'm telling you from experience, because obviously I was in law enforcement, I was the extreme end of this. I would never trust anybody. And what happens is this: time goes by. All of a sudden, as you start thinking about these different actions, days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months. And when they finally take action, when they finally like everything's perfect, it's lined up, all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, they feel very confident. But here's the thing, you typically can't convince that person otherwise. Like literally whatever you say, you could know everything. You can be the expert or something, but you can't convince them until they think through it, because usually the ego kicks in. So that's entrepreneur number one, the thinker. But let's talk about the opposite. The opposite is going to be somebody that we call the action taker, right? Typically with this avatar, they like to act quickly. And what I mean, just to be absolutely clear, is we're not irrational. What I'm talking about specifically is you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to rapidly make these decisions to go fast. So you're able to interpret the data pretty quickly, right? Usually these are the guys that make a lot of mistakes, but you actually move with speed. So what ends up happening is the mentality is things will break along the way. It is what it is. But if you're quickly moving and you avoid looking in the rear view mirror about the mistakes you've made, instead you start focusing on the side view mirror, meaning directional changes, because what's happened in the past does not matter. So typically what you want to do is focus on direction. Like I mentioned, the side view, like you're looking to the right lane, the left lane, etc., not what's happening in the past specifically. And you focus on repetitive action, right? And it's not consultative, like meaning like, hey, I want everyone else's opinion. I want to research this and that. And the reason why is you realize that no matter what these people tell you, whatever research you do, it's literally just an opinion. So you're going to be that person people ask in the future also. So you might as well make the mistakes first. So those actions that the thinker might have took days to weeks, well, that usually takes hours, not days. Because between the two of these types, these archetypes for entrepreneurs, who do you think has more success? Do you think it's the thinker, or do you think it's going to be the action taker? What I want you to do is just comment below. I want to get your opinion. Do you think it's the action taker, or do you think it's the thinker? So comment action if you think it's the former, and comment think if you think it's going to be the thinker. And I'm always interested to see the opinions that pop up specifically with this, right? So give you guys a second. So answer is going to be the action taker. And here's the reason why. So ultimately, the way you want to think about this is actually very, very simple. That action taker is able to take 2 to 3 more times action in the same time period. So while I'm thinking about it, if I'm not a thinker, I'm saying, okay, cool, I got to research this. I got to make sure this is confirmed. I got to do this. What ends up happening is on day 1, that action taker has already done 3 times as much things. Day 2, 6 times. Day 3, 9 times. 12, and you start going on and on and on, and you're quickly outpacing. And it's almost like you're in a marathon and you're sprinting. But what ends up happening is you've gone so fast against the competition that even if you walk, you're still faster than them. Versus the thinker. Day 1, they got thought number 1. This sounds interesting. Day 2, let's analyze it. Day 3, let's compare it against all these other things, right? And you start realizing how all these days are going by. Day 4, I'm going to ask people, what are your thoughts? What do you think? What do you think? Day 5, what ends up happening is if you even have a slight sense of doubt, you reset, you start game planning again. So you're already behind the curve. So in the same time, you're able to double, triple, quadruple, 10 times the amount of momentum in the same time period. And when it comes down to it, the person with the most momentum is the one that always wins. That's just how it is. And to be absolutely clear, I just want to be clear because this comes up all the time, do not be irrational. Sometimes they'll say, well, you want me to just make mistakes? No, that's not the case. I used to tell some of the police officers that work for me, say, hey, I'm not saying, be an idiot. But what I'm saying is act quickly, because when it comes down to it, success favors speed. And everything I've done, success has always driven the most results when speed was involved, right? So with that being said, every entrepreneur that's successful says this specifically. It is what? Take risk and act quickly. And when you think about it, because as I just came back from San Francisco like last week for a baby shower, and I was talking to some business friends of mine, our roofing businesses and all that. And what we're thinking about, I was like, man, the USA really incentivizes us to take risk. Like it really incentivizes us to take risk because you can just form an LLC, get a loan, all this good stuff. Versus other countries, it's very hard. That's why I always have respect for entrepreneurs of different countries. Because why? When it comes down to it, it takes much more in all these other countries to fall down and get back up, versus in the US, literally you can start 26 different businesses and the next month start another one, right? And then when you really think about it, what's risk? It's just making adjustments, right? You make some mistakes, you adjust, you pivot, AKA it's also known as growing, right? And then again, like I mentioned, if you really want to think about this, think of every success story. And when I say success story, it's not the person on Instagram saying I'm an entrepreneur, etc. When it comes down to it, it's every major business owner that that's actually been like really successful. They say the same thing. Every sentence always starts with what? I had to fail. And usually what ends up happening is the difference that they talk about versus everybody else is they failed very quickly. You start looking at OpenAI, for example, CEO Sam Altman, look at the original company he started. Didn't do too well. Fast forward, has one of the most important businesses in the world. So when it comes down to it, you have to ask yourself, is this going to be your year, or are you going to be thinking through slowing down? So if it's your year and you say, I'm going to take action, whether it's this, whether it's some other business, it doesn't matter. I want you to comment action below, right? And the reason why is because it's accountability. This is accountability for you to take action towards whatever goal it was, whether it's starting a marketing firm, whether it's starting a crypto payment business, it doesn't matter, but just take one step towards that future self you're envisioning. So what I want to do is this, go over what we call the 2026 digital payment revolution, all right? So first of all, if you don't know who I am, my name is Gautam Tekla, founder and I like to say basically blue collar to business. And the reason why is because, obviously in the Marine Corps uniform, it's not blue, but I always was into service type role. So going into business was a very, very scary thing. In fact, on the way to this journey, I made a lot of mistakes. I lost over probably three to like $400,000 in, bad business moves to say the least, and some investments also, but it was also what drove me to where I'm at right now. So a little bit of background: joined the Marines, turned 18 because I knew this whole, the white picket fence background was just not for me. Parents are immigrants; they came over from war-torn countries, so I had two different worlds I was living in. So I decided, join the Marines, right? Wanted to join the hardest branch, as I thought at the time. Left the Marine Corps, right? Had a career, and then I found some dead-end jobs because what I found was transferable skills don't really come. You learn how to shoot M16A4, and then what's that lead to in the civilian world? There's not much. So worked some dead-end jobs, started spiraling into debt until finally I realized I was a little over 70, probably almost $80,000 in credit card debt. And you're probably wondering, like, how do you get into that point? But if you pay the minimum balance, they'll keep extending your lines because they want to, it's indentured servitude. So I got to a point where I just had to reset. I just had to reset and just slept in my car for months, got rid of the rent, got rid of a lot of expenses. And I just started cutting everything to save money. So I figured, this is just a life. This is just a life. It is what it is. Until I ran into a police officer. So this is like a random occurrence. I used to never talk to cops or anything like that. It wasn't normal for me. And I remember I just was drawn to this conversation. And he asked me, he's like, hey, why don't you become a cop? I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right. Like, be a cop, like, that doesn't make any sense. And this is, over a decade ago. So it was obviously a different time. But that line really hit me months later because I was in the same situation. I was looking at the same bank account, same paycheck every 2 weeks. I'm thinking like, man, this is like, something's got to give. So I figured, why not, right? The term I always like to say is F it, right? Because the lesson in this is like some of these decisions that you make does require a quick fuck it. That's it. Because when you really think about it, what's the worst that can happen? You get into the exact same situation you're in. So applied to a lot of departments, got hired finally in the city of Oakland, California. So as you know, it's an interesting place. So you're thinking 90K career, 90K salary base to just start. Things were all good until I almost lost my job. Had the same personal life, wasn't able to cut people out that I should have because let's be realistic, you don't want to cut out your friends, but you do need to be around people that are actually growing because you're always going to have haters in the comments, haters responding to you on messages. That's just a normal thing. So I let the wrong people stay involved in my life. But what I found was this: I had a second chance, started over. And the lesson I found was timing is everything. Because when it really comes down to it, sometimes you have to make those mistakes for you to get to that future version. So start all over, brand new, back in the police academy, embarrassing, all that good stuff. Obviously, you lose a little self-confidence, but I figured, when it comes down to it, sometimes you just got to start over. And I have a question for you. How many of you guys have had to start over? And I'm not talking about sleeping in your car. I'm talking about maybe a career pivot, maybe starting a new business, maybe it's a relationship, it's Valentine's Day. I want you to comment timing below. Comment timing. And the reason why is because it happens. It is what it is. Life goes on, and it's either the chapter or it's what defines you. It's your choice. So got into Oakland, right? Working full time. Literally, I was working like 90 to 110 hours a week because there's just unlimited overtime, shootings, robberies, all that good stuff. You see my OT slip over there. So I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make as much money as possible, and I'm going to live in the basement. I'm going to save as much money. I was paying $1,000 a month in rents, $47 a month for a USAA car insurance for my 98 Tacoma. I was saving every single penny that we have, right? And so when it comes down to it, the way I always look about it is like this, right? Ultimately, the reset is usually what drives you to get to the next level, right? And so when it comes down to it, it's super, super, super simple, right? I decided the 9 to 5 wasn't enough. I figured, hey, you know what? I'm going to try all these different businesses, right? So 9 to 5, I decided, hey, let me try Turo. I started renting some cars. I had some, the get around cars you can rent. I tried Amazon FBA. Didn't really work out for me for timing wise. Rental properties. I started an actual store in San Francisco. Bad timing. Running an actual real store in person is a lot more work. So a lot of these things just failed. This led to just negative. And I was on the verge of quitting. So when it came down to it, the lesson was this: you can't be afraid to pivot quickly. Because when it comes down to it, think about it like this. Who of you have been in a similar situation? Nothing seems to work. You hit with the rule of 3, right? And in business, you listen to any business podcast, they say the same thing. One thing goes wrong, then the next thing, then the next thing. To this day, I always believe in the exact same thing. And when it comes down to it, all these things will hit you at once. But the lesson is this: the motivation alone is not going to drive you. That's when it comes down to it. The motivation will not. There has to be a mission in place. So if you have a mission, whether it's your family, whether it's just some passive income, you want to buy a Lambo, it doesn't matter. Want you to do is comment mission below, because you're going to be accountable and you're going to get this started, right? So obviously, we talk about the season of earning, the season of learning, right? So now we enter the season of earning. So started investing into some residual income sources, right? Now, with that being said, right, the way you want to think about it is like this. It's super, super simple. You want to think of boring businesses. I got some ATMs, credit card processing, some digital ATMs too, if you guys are into that. It's one of those things. I had some crypto arbitrage opportunities that did really well. But the main thing to focus on was minimal time involved, right? Because you have to ignore the white noise. There's always going to be that shiny new object, some new business, some new investment, some new crypto coin or whatever. I've had to learn the hard way because you need to focus on cash flow. So to this day, I always just focus on cash flow. Everyone says buy real estate, et cetera, assets. But when it comes down to it, the cash flows drives loans that can actually get to something where you are. So you fast forward a few years later, obviously things worked out, helped a few thousand people build some boring businesses across ATMs, credit card processing, vending machine, digital ATMs, everything you can think of, and scaled up a few companies. And now we have the only digital payment business for entrepreneurs. So the question I ask you is this: why the hell does any of this even matter? Just some story. Like, what are you talking about, man? Well, when it comes down to it, your actions today are going to begin your next chapter. So if you're ready for the season of earning, you're like, hey, let's get to it, man. Show me how to build this business. What I want you to do is comment earn below. Comment earn, because when it comes down to it, this is the time you have to take action. So let's talk about startup on easy mode. And this is for a digital payment business, guys, right? So to make sure we're all on the same page, because I got a few questions before this actual training, got a quick Q&A for you. So it's super simple: true or false, right? So first question: this business model exists everywhere. True or false? If you think when it comes down to crypto payments, it's already everywhere, what I want you to do is comment true. If you don't believe so, you're saying, hey, like there's not that many people that are actually doing this, I want you to comment false, because I want to get an idea of like where you're at right now first, right? So I'll get you guys a second to comment. Let's do this. Remove some of this. Cool, cool, cool. Now, false, right? It's me answer. Here's the reason why. So ultimately, you have to ask yourself, how many businesses have you been to that actually do this? So if this is the first time hearing about it and you start doing some Google research, you start realizing no one's offering this yet. Now, the next question is going to be this: there are people waiting to pay with crypto. True or false? Meaning, like, you got into a business and you're like, you know what? I could see somebody actually paying with crypto here, whether it's USDC, Bitcoin, whatever it is. I want you to comment true or false, just to get an idea of the thought process we have right now. All right. And the answer for this, super simple. Probably one of the more surprising ones that I've gotten, especially on calls. True. If you go to a lot of these businesses, you start realizing that if they use gift cards, if they use any type of payment other than like cash, especially like Apple Pay, you start realizing a lot of these people are actually using alternative payment methods. And that's the reason why it makes it much more easier to get into something new. Now, the next question is, this takes tens of thousands of dollars to start. True or false? Super simple. It takes tens of thousands of dollars to start this business. The answer is going to be false, right? And here's the reason why I bring this up, right? Ultimately, you can start this business on your own. You do not need to work with us, right? I saw some, there's like some hater in the comments saying, oh, guys, waste of time, etc. Ultimately, you can do this on your own. It's actually really simple. And I say simple, not easy, because obviously I'm going to break down the basics, how you can do it on your own, but you can do it on your own. Go to some local businesses, find a processor, get the equipment, because obviously you want to do equipment, do some marketing strategies, and you can launch it. It will take you a little more time, but you can do it on our own if you want, right? And then question, some of the biggest companies are already doing this. It's true or false? Do you think some of the biggest ones, and I'm not talking about, like McDonald's, but I'm saying like some of the biggest retailers are using this already? True or false? If you think it is true, like there's some big companies doing this, awesome. If you think it's false, what I want you to do is comment false below, right? So let's do this. The answer is going to be true. I'm going to go into a few of the businesses that are doing this already. But it's actually really interesting to see some of the businesses that are doing this, and you don't even know. They're just building out the infrastructure behind the scenes, right? Final question is going to be, this is already saturated, right? This is probably like the game changer, because if you start this business or not, true or false, you believe this business is saturated already. So if you think it's true, what I want you to do is comment true. If you think it's false, I want you to comment false, just to get an idea of like to gear the training towards, right? So answer is gonna be false. If you look at, there's actually a website called BTC Maps. I'd highly suggest you Google it after this. Look at the businesses accepting this already and show it over an overlay of your local city, and you realize it's like nothing. It's like however many gas stations are. It's craziness. So let's break down specifically how this even works in the first place, right? So the way you want to think about this is super simple. You're going to place a device just like this, right? It looks just like a normal payment processor, and you're going to place it at local businesses. The customer is going to decide to pay in crypto. So the customer chooses which crypto they want to. So obviously this matters on what's accepted, et cetera, but there's multiple options usually. The merchant, very simple. They're going to enter an amount. So they have a device like this. They type in the amount, just like if you're paying with a credit card, and then the customer pays the equivalent in crypto. So they scan a QR code, and then the merchant, this is very, very important, the merchant receives the cash equivalent. So if they paid $100 in XRP, they get $100 US. And the reason I bring this up, this is probably one of the most common questions is, well, if the price fluctuates so much, like, why would a merchant want to accept this? But the way you want to think about this is like Apple Pay with the European card paying to the US. So they have euros in their debit card, but they're still converting automatically, and it still stays equal. It's the exact same thing with crypto, right? So the way you want to think about this is how you make money, because this is all cool, technology, new MacBook, whatever, right? But let's just be realistic. We think, show me the money. How am I going to make money off of this, right? How do I profit? What's my business model? So ultimately, you earn a percentage off each transaction. It's the exact same thing with credit card processing that people do already. The only difference is this is not saturated. So you're able to partner with more and more and more locations, including e-commerce stores. So think of any place you buy something online, that's another opportunity for you. So obviously, very simple and scalable business model. It requires minimal time, to say the least. Like, this is literally set it and forget it. There's no maintenance, and there's no competition yet. But here's the thing. Why does this even matter? Well, ultimately what you're doing is you're copying the exact same strategy that banks do already. And this is I say 100 billion, it's about 144 billion as of 2025. Meaning swiping your card, the profit in that is over $100 billion being spread across banks, spread across different individuals, etc. So the way you want to think about this is it's the exact same model that people do. You know, when you go to a business and they say, hey, if you want to use your credit card, we're going to charge you 4%, 7%. If you're in Miami, sometimes 20%. Well, we're used to either passing it on. So what we do is focus on the shift. We focus on what all the big companies are already doing. Let's talk about Chase, Coinbase, Square, PayPal, Stripe. Like, all these companies are building infrastructure. They're just not talking about it. Some are a little more vocal, like Square, for example, but they're building out the infrastructure. And the other thing is the federal government's doing the exact same thing. They're now investing into this. If you just Google crypto payments, you start realizing it's been exploding. But here's the crazy part. Less than 10% of the merchants even do this. So the problem is multi-part. Number one, merchants are unaware. You go to businesses and ask them, like, what are you talking about? Which is craziness to me, right? It's like nobody knowing they can rent their house out on Airbnb. Like, well, wait, I can rent it for a day? Like, yes, you can. It's this opportunity. And the other thing was, it wasn't available yet. It just wasn't one of those things that people focus on. So all simply put, what this means for you is it's a massive opportunity. In fact, it's the exact same system that's already scaling across the board for multiple other people. But before we start, I got a question. How many businesses have you been to that actually have been doing this? So think about like the local businesses around you, right? Whether the gas station, the barbershop, whatever, that's actually accepting crypto payments. Just comment the number below. Is it 1? Is it 10? Is it 0? Maybe you don't know. I have an idea for you. And the reason I say this is ultimately that number, if you're able to count, you got to ask yourself, why did that even stand out to you? And the reason why is because others are unaware. It stood out to you because, like, wait, this is like an opportunity. You saw some guy in an ad, maybe myself, talking about crypto payments. So you see the opportunity, you see what it is, but you have to take advantage while you're still ahead of the curve. So let's break down the beginner startup basics, right? So when starting this business, like I mentioned, on your own, very, very simple, right? There's a few different things. So the first thing is going to be your business and bank account, right? So the question I always get is like, I'm like, why do I even need to form a new business for this? Super simple. Crash course. You want to keep it simple. You want to focus on speed and just form an LLC or corporation if you're in Canada. And the reason I say this is because number one, there's protection involved. And this is one of those things no one pays attention to. Obviously, I'm more risk averse because I came from law enforcement. But the moment you start profiting, people want to start taking a dollar here, dollar there, dollar there. That's just normal. It's just business. You have to understand that. So you want to protect your assets because the worst thing that can happen is literally 6 months from now, you're cash flowing. All of a sudden you get hit by a car and they're saying, oh, you have this little business on the side. Let's start including that into your assets. So that way we start realizing how much you have to settle for. So we always want to form a business. And then from there, we typically want to open a business bank account. Super simple. Number one, there's banking products you have. We want to separate it for taxes. There's obviously tax advantages. And then the other thing in the future, you start getting relationship bankers. So they say, hey, Louis, all of a sudden you are cash flowing this much. We're seeing the money come in. We have these new products for you that they wouldn't offer to you on a personal side. So it's only for your benefit to form the actual business and the business bank account. And then from there, what we want to do is account for initial expenses. So one of the questions I had earlier was, how much does it cost? Well, typically we say a few $1,000s to start on your own. And the reason why, super simple, is because number one, you want to get equipment. You want to actually focus on, acquisition, which is acquiring merchants to work with you. Typically, there's going to be the formation steps. And then again, with scaling, there's usually a lot of expenses with scaling, depending on how you structure it. And then obviously there's the expense of just making mistakes. It is what it is. So we want to account for these expenses. And then you want to decide, there's really one of two paths. Path number one is you decide sweat equity, which is going to be a little less of an investment. Or you decide, hey, I'm going to outsource a lot of the things, maybe team members, companies like us, where it's going to be a matter of, do you value your time and a little more of an investment? Or do you say, you know what, I'd rather spend more time and take less of an investment? It's all up to you. There's no wrong answer. But when it comes down to it, it is personal choice. And then from there, what we want to do is identify a payment processor. So the key aspect to this is you have crypto, it goes into cash. That's the key thing that drives. And then you have to have profit in the middle. So one of the most common things I see is this. We'll say, hey, what about this company, that company, this company? And I say, well, look at the profit you're going to make. So you sign up for an affiliate program and then you say, hey, cool, I'm going to get 50% of profit. Then you're like, wait a second, profit, it says 0.075%, less than a percent. And I get 50% of that. Wait a second, I'm only making like $10. You might as well just give me an Amazon gift card. So you start realizing a lot of the structures are incentivized for you to basically be slave labor. Let's just be realistic. So when you're working with a processor, you want to focus on one that actually gives you the ability to structure the deals how you want. Because let's be realistic, this is a business. You need flexibility to profit the most for your business. And then from there, you want to focus on multiple cryptos because as much as we might want to say XRP or Bitcoin or whatever, it really doesn't matter. You just want the customer to be able to pay with whatever they want. So the more, the merrier. Okay. And then from there, we always want to make sure the software is pretty simple. So the worst thing can happen is a customer goes into a business and they're just confused. Like, I don't know how to do this thing. So what do? They don't want to pay. So we want to make it as simple and user-friendly as possible. And that's what comes with the processor also. And then of course, this is a small thing. It's a soft skill, but you got to focus on responsiveness. I'm telling you right now, I've been in business for a few years, and that's the first thing I look for. If somebody's not responsive, I cut ties immediately. And the reason why is I know you don't value this, so you're just going to waste my time. And if this is how you are in the beginning, I can only imagine how you're going to be when we're working together over the course of a year or 2 years. You're just going to waste my time. So I just like to cut ties early. So that's the first thing you want to look for with processors is if they're not responsive, don't waste your time. And then from there, you want to make sure there's great support because ultimately that business owner is going to call them for support on the back end. There's a question, receipt, whatever. So you want to make sure they're on top of it. And that comes from the responsiveness, like I mentioned. So the other thing you want to do is obviously find multiple locations, right? So the way you want to think about it is like this, all right? Any business that you went to that doesn't do this is an opportunity for you. Now it's just a matter of what? You need to chat with the business owner. You got to educate them a little bit, which is super simple. We have frameworks. Maybe you want to use technology like a CRM to manage your leads. I was just talking about that in our mastermind call earlier today. But essentially, we just want to find as many local businesses to work with as possible because it's easier than focusing on online initially. So if you want the sales guide, and actually super simple, like the breakdown of like how this works, I want you to comment guide below and we'll send you a copy after. If your name is the same as your email, I'll send it to you. If not, you'll probably just have to comment or tag me on YouTube and I can send you an email with the actual PDF link, all right? So from there, what we want to do is target low hanging fruits, right? These are the foundational steps, guys. And when I say low hanging fruits, the rule of thumb is this in business: the riches are in the niches, right? So I always like to focus on like some more unique stores first to get, the most profit first. Then we can expand as much as possible. So you want to focus on retail stores because these are low-hanging fruits. The business owner is usually there, or at least a manager or some type of decision maker. So it's quicker to get them signed up. And then from there, specialty stores. Why? Well, number one, chargebacks. They start dealing with $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 transactions. You start realizing why they look at you differently because they're like, I got to make sure this person's not shady. They're using an Amex. Is it in their name, et cetera, because they eat the risk on that. And then from there, we like to look at restaurants because, again, usually there's some type of decision maker or there's somebody available for you to quickly sign them up. And then, of course, smoke shops, they're just like a secret location type that are just, there's always somebody available for smoke shops. It's just one of those almost 24/7 operations. It's usually more family run, so you're able to do that too. So from there, the way you want to think about this is path of least resistance. Think about it as that you're trying to remove as much friction as possible. In business, those who are able to remove the most friction make the most money. So what we like to do is just pass the fee on to the customer. One of the most common questions is like, well, wouldn't the customer be annoyed or that? Well, no, it's actually less than credit cards, so it doesn't matter, right? And usually when they have crypto, they probably profit a little or they're trying to offset or get out of it, so it doesn't matter in general, because if they go to the exchange charges them a percentage anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's actually cheaper. So the question is this: why do we even do that? Well, it comes down to friction, like I mentioned. It doesn't cost a business owner anything. So if it doesn't cost them anything, it's easier for them to sign up, because if they don't need to think about it, they can actually take action very quickly. From there, we want to focus on scaling, right? So speaking of scaling, obviously we've got the first location. That's binary. Yes or no, it works. Awesome. You feel good. Pat yourself on the shoulder. Well, let's be realistic. Let's talk about money. So what I want to break down is specifically what I call a 5K a month location strategy. So to be clear, right, this is not how much you'll make at the top end or the bottom end, but this is what I would do if I was starting over on this business, because obviously I've been doing this for a while, right? And if you do need a copy of this after, because I think I saw some questions earlier, just comment guide below. I have a pretty simple guide that breaks this down, something similar to the sales one, but just goes over the basics of this business so you can take advantage, right? So first things first, again, we want to focus on simple businesses. The most common thing I see is like we have these complex strategies. We're like, hey, we're going to target this, then we're going to go to 7-Eleven, et cetera. It's like, hey, man, slow down, slow down. Simplicity scales and complexity fails. So I want to focus on these simple businesses first, but I will quickly niche down. So you remember that business I said I started back in San Francisco, lost about 50 grand on it, which is, small loss, but it was actually what we call a gold exchange. So this is going to be your secret location type you can target right now. Literally, you can go, if you're on the West Coast, you have enough time. East Coast, we'll wait till tomorrow. But these are businesses that you go there, you pay them cash, and they give you gold, right? And you're probably wondering, like, who the heck does this? It's a back and forth opportunity that happens all the time. So the reason I say this is because it actually becomes what? Cost prohibitive to accept cards. Because let's just say gold, which exploded in price now, right? It costs $5,000 for 1 ounce of gold. It's a coin, right? The coin itself cost them like $4,400 or maybe $4,500. So there's a $500 profit. So if they accept a card and there's a chargeback, it requires them to sell 5 more. No, actually, no, I think 10 more to break even on the loss. So think about that for a second. It's devastating. So when you come in and say, hey, this person that invested in gold, they also obviously have crypto, which is, Bitcoin, the digital gold. If they're going to continually go back and forth as prices fluctuate, why don't you accept this method? So all of a sudden, number one, your transactions are bigger because you're looking at $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 transactions. And the other thing is what? There's a quick need for it, so you can sign them up very quickly. So that's just one example of a niche down business. After we've decided our targeted group, what we want to do is end up building up referrals. So when I say referrals, it's actually super simple. The way you want to think about it is you sign up a business owner, you say, hey, if you do know any business owners that would actually benefit from this also, there's an incentive program for you to refer them to me. So you start getting these other businesses on autopilot because let's be realistic. Business owners know other business owners. So you'll start having these people reach out to you versus you having to go out there to save yourself the time. And then from there, what we want to do is take advantage of our brand, right? So the thing you have to think about is like this. Name one brand that you like, whether it's Nike, whether it's Built, whether it's, Coca-Cola, it doesn't matter. It wasn't overnight. It actually was not overnight. but it led to you buying and repeatedly buying. So what ends up happening is as you build your brand of businesses that are working with you and they respect you, you start getting people reaching out to you. So like I mentioned, when it comes down to it, money talks. So I bring up the merchants knowing each other. The brand leads to these referrals because you go up to somebody, you're wearing a hoodie and like, hey, I need you to send me some business owners. They're like, what are you talking about, man? Versus you have a nice website, you have a social media profile, and you say, hey, this is my website. If you do know somebody, send them over my way. So now these merchants that know other people, these bankers that know other business owners because they're signing up for bank accounts, they will actually start referring you people with an incentive. Once we focus on the brand, which is not that crazy, guys, if you need help with it, just let me know. This is like super simple for me. We focus on what I like to call the online secret. Because when it comes down to it, let's be realistic. I don't like going out there and talking to people. I'm an introvert. As much as it might seem like on the trainings, this is like me, I don't like talking. So I like to have people reaching out to me. It makes it much simpler. So the way you do that is super, super simple. Think about the same method that you found myself, whether it was YouTube, Instagram, X, whatever. Well, the same thing happens with business owners. They scroll through social media also. So when it comes down to it, the way you want to think about this is you can use online social media to your advantage. And it's actually very simple. And the reason why is because no one's doing this yet. So you have the advantage of what we call first movers advantage. If you post about it, people are like, what? Crypto payments? What are you talking about? And you start to naturally gain momentum. So when it comes down to it, it's super simple. The secret to valuable accounts is your brand. People want to work with people they like. So if you're funny, if you're very serious, or if you're just a dick, you will attract those same people. And I've seen them all, guys. I've spoken to tens of thousands of people in my career, right? So in summary, guys, the way you want to think about this is we want to focus on simplicity. We want to focus on simplicity. We want to simplify your process to actually get people to work with you. You need to obviously build systems. And then from there, we focus on scaling, right? So when it comes down to it, obviously I have a location list. I keep telling you guys to comment because I want to get an idea of what you're interested in. I can make more resources in the future, but let's focus on setting up your business on autopilot. We got about like 3 more minutes before I'm ending this stream, right? So I say autopilot because ultimately, let's just be realistic. We just don't have as much time. That's why we look into more simple, boring businesses because it doesn't require us to add in another full-time gig, right? So there's a few principles you want to follow when you're focusing on building this business, right? Number 1, this is long-term. This is not a short-term get-rich-quick scheme. It's not the 17-year-olds on the balcony saying, hey, you're going to get rich. This is not what this is, guys, right? So you want to focus on long-term relationships in this business because they refer you to other people. So I always look at it like this. Time is always better than what? Money. And this might sound counterintuitive, but there's a saying, right? A healthy man has a lot of wishes. A sick man only has one, which is to be healthy again. So obviously that's the extreme, but the way you want to think about this is if you're able to buy back your time, you can focus on leverage to scaling up this business, right? So I always like to focus on saving my time versus saving a little money because the money will also come later, right? It's an abundance mentality. And the other thing is relationships are way better than short-term profit. You guys all have that person, and maybe it's you, right? But ultimately, it's that person that always wants to get ahead. They always want to have that winning hand. So you're just like, man, I don't want to be around that. It's the same thing in business. People avoid those people. So I always focus on relationships because it leads to something down the road. And in this business specifically, if you approach a merchant and you try to pull a fast one on them, the word's going to spread and you're going to lose future deals in the future. So I always like to focus on them working with me for a long time because they end up sending me 2, 3, 4, sometimes 10 different people, and it makes it worth it for that extra percentage I would have lost. And then I call this like the underlying principle of like business in general, but we focus on proof of concept first. And then once we have proof of concept, we say this works, this makes sense, the action actually happened, I immediately try to build a team. And the reason why is because you're not going to have enough time. And there's a saying, right? In the military, we say 2 is 1, 1 is none. But if you're able to build a team under you, then all of a sudden you have team members that, number 1, are able to level up their lifestyles. They're able to build into like an ecosystem. You work with people you like, but you're able to reach out to more businesses and sign more up, which expands your empire, as we like to say, or your portfolio. So I always like to scale as soon as possible. Because when you're scaling, you have to focus on efficiency. So it's not you doing a lot of action as much as, we like to say that. Sometimes it's having enough people around you to do a lot of the action for you and you guys just making smart decisions first. And then one of the last things is going to be outsourcing locations, right? This is probably one of the biggest things, but as much as you can go to all the businesses around you and say, hi, you want to accept crypto payments, it's easier if you use technology to your advantage. So you usually want to have some type of service that does this for you, whether it's a call center, whether it's us, it doesn't matter, but it's usually not worth as much as your time. And then we use technology. So this is probably one of the more slept on things. We want to focus on ads, or at least boosting some activity to literally just showcase yourself. So the way you want to think about this is one-to-one, you're able to reach out to one person. But if you're able to add a little more gasoline to the fire, you can quickly expand to the amount of people. And while everyone in there is not going to be your targeted person that you want to work with, there will be pockets of people that want to work with you also. So I always like to take advantage of ads, because as long as you set up an acquisition system, whether it's a CRM or whatever, you can easily scale this business, especially with a team. And of course, like I mentioned, we want to maintain our online presence, because nowadays, let's be realistic, we always Google each other. We Google the websites, we Google the businesses we work with, because we want to make sure we're working with legitimate people. So you want to maintain that online presence. And then this is going to be counterintuitive to popular belief. But once you scale, you diversify. Everyone says reinvest, 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 reinvest. But here's the thing you want to think of. I like to focus on cash flow and lead that into other investments, because you never know, anything can happen. All of a sudden they outlaw this, or you're not able to focus on this anymore, but you have other residual income streams, whether it's an Airbnb, whether it's gold investments or crypto, it doesn't matter, but you get the cash flow out, pull it and reinvest into other things. Because at the end of the day, there becomes this point where you're not going to build this massive empire, right? You're not looking to build the next Stripe or the next Square. So let's get to that reasonable cash flow level, pull the money out and invest it into whatever you want. That's that mission I mentioned. And then of course, what I mentioned, the all-in-one secret, right? So who wants to see how we actually take advantage of double dipping now? This is becoming really popular. Got a lot of merchants waiting for, because we have some tech stuff going on. What I want you to do is comment 2026 below, comment 2026. And this is what I call the all-in-one secret, right? This is like the game changer that's happening right now that really no one's talking about. Even if you're in merchant services, you have other businesses, no one talks about, right? So remember how I mentioned that it's not saturated, right? So you obviously have all these businesses you work with, et cetera. So we start with the crypto side, meaning like, hey, you get in, hey, awesome, you want to work with me, easy to sign them up. Well, what you want to do is actually deploy a device capable of both, right? The crypto and the normal credit card side. And here's the reason why. You typically wait, and I'll say 30 days, realistically it's about a month, because they're up and running, things are working, smoothing out, there's no more questions. And then you want to offer them the other side. We call it cross-selling. So think about it like this. You got a burger, what do you offer also? You're gonna have cheese, you're gonna have bacon, et cetera. All these things that lead to different types of burgers, or the French fries. So you ask them a simple question. How are things going? That's it. How are things going? And what are they gonna say? It's good, awesome, cool. Is it as simple as expected? Yes, it is. Well, would you like to simplify this more? And it's a simple question, but you start realizing that you're benefiting them even more and more and more, right? So when it comes down to it, the devices that we place have this already. And the reason I bring this up is because as we talk to a lot of business owners, they'll mention the same thing, like, yeah, that sounds good, but like, do you have something that does both? And it happens so many times that as much as I'm a crypto geek, I love it. It's like, man, I really have to get back into merchant services. Dang it. I didn't want to, it's almost like the devil's in the closet, but they would ask the same thing. They say, cool, that's awesome. But for the device you have, like, does it do both? And it happens so many times. It's like, man, are we really leaving money on the table? So we started focusing on all-in-one devices. Really simple. You'll have something as simple as this, where all of a sudden you're taking advantage of both, right? You're gonna turn this bad boy on. You'll have the traditional side where you have obviously the credit cards, you're placing it on the side, you're swiping, all that good stuff. And then you have the crypto side too, where all of a sudden you're actually scanning a QR code and doing a crypto payment. So when it comes down to it, you're able to multiply your income. And it seems very simple because it is. As much as you're going to have concerns, you're going to have questions, it's actually a lot easier. And the reason why is because people like simple. And if your merchant has something like this, where they're just doing normal credit card payments, when it comes down to it, if they're able to get new equipment and they're able to do both, where they add another revenue stream, they get marketing, they all these different benefits, why wouldn't that work? So when it comes down to it, you gotta ask yourself this, right? Would you want to focus on doing it yourself or with the process that works? So for us, obviously, like I mentioned, we've been in this space for a little while. We've obviously built businesses. We have different models in place. We have a licensing system. It's the same model that thousands have used across the board. You just go to my website, getthemtechlight.com. You'll start seeing some people work with across the US, Canada, Europe, Mexico, and all these other places. But ultimately, I just focus on the same model that when it comes down to it, it's really simple, right? This is the same model that helped me quit my job, right? Obviously, I had a career in law enforcement. I decided, hey, it wasn't for me. I needed to build some income on the side. It's the same model that thousands have built, and the same more that a lot more are doing month over month over month. But it's okay. If you're on the fence, not a big deal whatsoever, because ultimately you can always wait till later. And this happens all the time. You know, I think 3 years ago, I had somebody that started with us last month that literally found me 3 years ago. So we're in it for the long term. But you're going to wait for what? More success. You're going to wait for more proof. You're going to wait for this to be around, because it will be. But it comes down to how much of the opportunity, it's like a pie, right? How much is going to be available now versus later? Will there be some in the future? Absolutely. Absolutely. You will have the opportunity 6 months from now, a year from now. There'll just be a little more friction. But if you do want to get ahead, you want to get a start, you're saying, hey, you know what? I want to take part of the same process, the same success. Plus, when it comes down to it, the same thing that we've used that obviously works. It's a proven process. What I'm gonna do is this, right? So I opened up some slots, right? I had one of my managers. I said, hey, you know, is it possible? Obviously, the team's packed. Are you available to take some calls after the training, right? And it's not gonna be tonight because we're already slammed. It's probably gonna be Wednesday morning. But if you're on the part where like, hey, you know what? I want to know a little bit more how I could build this before March starts, get some questions answered, maybe a customized game plan and see how this works for you. What I'll do for you is this. I'm actually going to drop a link. Let's see if I can I don't remember if I even have this link anymore. For you to schedule a call with one of our team members, right? And just to be clear, what I'm referring to is you're able to schedule, it's about like a 45-minute call with one of our team members. And what will end up happening is they'll go over the basics. They're obviously going to go way more detail than this because it's one-on-one. This is one-to-many. Everyone jumps in, they have questions, etc. And then they'll come over a customized game plan. And if it makes sense for you, badass. Can't wait to see you working, us deploying all these different devices. Got all this technology that I have with me, different manufacturers we've been testing from across the world. And if it doesn't, no problem whatsoever, because at least you leave with more education. So if it sounds like that's something that's interesting to you, you can click the link. It's only good for this time where you'll able to book a call with one of our team members, right? That link won't be valid after this live training, right? Now let's go into some questions, right? Let's go into some questions. So I'm going to scroll up a little bit to see what your guys' questions were earlier. So had a few live, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Most likely, yes. Why startup? If the business owner paying for the crypto conversion costs as well from crypto to cash, no, they're not. The customer's eating the expense. Extremely difficult to convert someone who's been using the same credit card company for many years to a new one. I'm going to disagree with that because obviously we've been doing it. Who is the merchant services processor? We have a few different ISOs. You're probably talking about like being an independent sales organization. We have a few different ones that reach out. So depending on what country you're going to be in, and then obviously if you're going to do like cash discount or something like that, we have different ones to integrate. There are thousands of different ones. I think that's an answer to that. How many reps can we have under us? Unlimited. The one thing is this though, remember, this isn't an MLM. So what we do is we work with you directly, because ultimately what I found is sometimes, especially like in life insurance, no knock to life insurance, but there's this idea of like, these different levels and all that. If you make money, then I make money. And maybe I'm just skeptical. I just like that. So we work with you directly, and you can sign up as many people under you as you want. You pay them what you want. Obviously, I say do good business, but you have that opportunity available to you, right? So with that being said, like I mentioned, if you do want to take advantage of one of those calls, I have that link down below. It will be good for, I think, the next like 6 minutes. So I'd highly suggest you just click on it, open up that new tab, schedule time within the next probably 48 hours to talk to one of our team members. And if not, you want to join one of our next trainings, no problem whatsoever. We'll be live again next Tuesday, which is going to be February 24th, 8 p.m. Eastern time sharp. And I got something else I want to talk to you about then. All right, guys, take care. Enjoy the rest of the night. If you have any questions, make sure you send me a message. Comment below, and I'll get you taken care of. Good night.